Welcome to Wednesday. It is the Devs Operative Cloud Native Coffee Hour, and we are live once again to talk about security today. And today, again, I have my co-hosts, Sam Delamarter and Dan McCracken, with me here. Want to say hello, guys?
Hello.
Hello, guys.
I feel like I need to be just over my name, like right there. It's perfect.
The stream is continuing to evolve and improve. I say that every single time.
Names are good.
Do we have any viewers in chat to make sure that sound's working this time?
Let me bop the chat real quick.
Bop.
I don't want to go too far with the stream without making sure that sound is working.
I know, we need our old faithful Sova.
I know, that's why I kind of like having Twitch up just myself so I can check, but...
Nikita, say something.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
I think that sounds good. Try saying something again.
This is a test of my microphone for the Devs Operative Cloud Native Coffee Hour.
Okay. I hear you.
You hear me, but...
No, okay, that's good. I thought the levels were off. We're good. We're on point.
Okay. Perfect.
Let me tweet this out to all of our fans. Now that we're live.
God, I love my new streaming rig.
We will get dozens of people in here. Your new rig is really nice to be around. I like just being in its presence.
It is beautiful, isn't it? Every morning I turn it on and I just stare at it. It's so glowy and liquidy.
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah, so getting back to the content of the day, we're going to talk about security today. We're going to talk about security. We're going to just dip our toes into it, mainly. There's a lot of topics to cover when it comes to security, and I'm sure this will not be the only stream we do on this topic, but we thought we'd just talk about a few different tools, frameworks that are in the area of security. One being Kubench. We have a list of things we'll talk about, but we only stream usually for about an hour, so I don't want to drop a name of a whole bunch of things and then not get to them. So let's talk about Kubench first, and then if we finish that, we can move on to the next one. Sound good?
That sounds great. I don't want to commit to too much.
Okay. Perfect. So, Kubench. Security. How about I try to kick it off? I think McCracken has a lot of things to say on it, but we let him talk a lot last time, so I'm going to go first. Okay, so QBench. I've had a personal great experience with it, and we do work with. I talk about this a lot. We do work with some large enterprises, and large enterprises have a lot of security requirements, which is good and important, right, for all the consumers that use them. And there is a organization that a lot of the companies reference. They reference something called CIS Benchmarks. It's a very common set of guidelines that this organization does research, creates, and publishes for consumption. And there are a set of CIS benchmarks for Kubernetes that the industry, the Kubernetes industry, the cloud native industry, has kind of coalesced around, I guess you could say, but it isn't super pervasive. So when you go to implement these recommendations, it can be kind of challenging. And if you view GitHub for Kubernetes, you'll find lots of issues referencing them, talking about, hey, I'm struggling to, set this flag in this way. And, so the community is aware of them. The community is still trying to adopt them as a whole. But there is a tool out there called QBench, which is an automated tool that runs inside of Kubernetes and can automatically check how well your Kubernetes cluster conforms to the CIS benchmarks. So that's my high-level pitch. It works great. We added it to our cluster build as a validation step. So every time we build a new Kubernetes cluster, it automatically deploys QBench, runs QBench, and based on the results of that test, will either succeed or fail the cluster build. Very, very handy. And that's just one of the many things you can do to validate a working cluster. How about, do you want me to switch over to the screen share and you can bring up QBench or the CIS benchmarks and we can take a look at what that looks like?
Let's show the people.
We're there.
So Aqua Security, or Aqua, which I hear people say Aqua and kind of dills me. They put out this tool, and I was looking at it recently, and so the reason I know some things is because I read about it, which is why you come for this really hard-hitting, massive content. CIS is the organization, and then that puts these things together. And QBench roughly, they do a great job at translating those exact requirements into this automated testing utility and lets you know what's up. Some of the rules are automated. Most of them are automated. And then a bunch of them come up as warn in our manual, which you hate to see. But in some cases, I'm sure they've got good reasons. I was on their GitHub last night looking, and it's like, yeah, some of these, and this is why you have to check this exact bullet point manually, because reasons. Kind of interesting. So Aqua Security, QBench. And as Makita said, you can install this guy a bunch of ways. You can install it right into your cluster and run it as a pod with elevated privileges, and it'll scope out everything. It checks out your control plane, checks out what's going on your kubelets and on your workers, kind of scouts out everything. It's pretty cool. The other way to install it is to download the QBench binary onto your control plane if you have control over it. So like if you're in EKS or AKS, you can't SSH onto your control plane, the Kubernetes controllers, to install this thing. You don't have access to those things. But if you have access to your hardware, you can download this, expand the deb package, and run it and take a look. And you can kind of see right off the bat what Makita was kind of talking about. Like, well, I want that get bigger. We do have live demo, but we're going to stick to the internet for a while. Seriously. So here's an example of what that might look like just off of their GitHub. Right off the bat, 1.1.1. You'd think that's the most important one, right? Actually, that better be the most important thing you do. If you were to do one thing to secure or harden your Kubernetes cluster, ensure that the -- allow privileged argument is set to false, which I believe, and again, I'm a student of Kubernetes security. I'm not going to pretend to be the authority on this. I think a lot of this is evolving as everything matures, but I'm trying. I'm putting energy into it, and it's a focus of mine. Privileged would mean it has access to like do stuff on the node. It's got a lot of access, and you generally would not want to default to giving everything a lot of access. Unfortunately, kind of does by default with your installations. So you have to go out of your way to turn that off. And this list is pretty big. This is actually a massive list of things. So if you're ever bored and you think you're done with, oh my gosh, I'm installing Kubernetes with kubeadm, it's automated, I am done, man. You're nowhere near done. That's all I want to say.
And take a look at the numbers on the left-hand side there. It says fail and then 1.1.1. So that actually refers to, and I don't know if you could find this easily, Dan. Could you? Yeah, pull that up. So the Cis Benchmark is a PDF file that you can download. And I think it's right here.
Dang it, am I going to have to?
Free to everyone. Pull it down.
Look. Free to everyone.
Just pull it down.
Oh my God. I'm not putting in all my stuff.
Just do it.
Uh,
Here, let me go to the interview screen, and then you can do it. There you go.
You're
Put
a
in all
peach,
the stuff.
I appreciate that.
While he's downloading that, so we can show everybody. So this is just a big PDF document, and those numbers refer to basically the chapters and sections in there. And for those that are new to Kubernetes security, let's say, this document, this PDF, is an awesome resource. So you can actually, for each of those kube bench markers that get printed out after you run the tool, you can go reference this PDF, and there is just paragraphs of information on each one and why it's important and what you can do to rectify it, basically. And they actually have it for a few different ways. So if you're installing with kubeadm, it has some information on that. If you're just doing it in the binaries and you want to pass the flags in to fix it, it has instructions for that as well. This is a beefy document, and it's very helpful. As we're waiting for that to come up, I already ran out of talking about it without it being up.
They're emailing me the PDF, just for the record. So,
but it is free to everybody.
It's definitely free. So, continue. Why wouldn't it just be here? That kind of really tilts me a little bit. If anyone from the CIS Center for Internet Security is on, can you just post this stuff instead of needing to send me spam? That seems like asking a lot, especially if your mission. You want me to completely tilt on the security people? They're going to come hose me. I'm not going to do that. I would really appreciate if you just publish it on your website, though. It seems like something everybody should just have readily available. Don't make this. Don't put any friction in between. Come on, man. What are you doing? I still don't have it.
Still don't have it. All right. Well, when it shows up, we'll head back that way. So why don't we just wait for that? I will go back to the screen share, and you want to go back to the KubeBench site?
Yep.
All right. Beautiful.
So
what else do you have to say about this?
Well, basically, what I was saying was, this is a massive amount of work to harden your cluster. It's a massive amount of work. So it's like right when you get to, okay, I know how to use Kubernetes, if you're learning or if you're on your cloud native journey, like many of the people we talk with we're on a journey still too, but there's a mountain there's a mountain of learning ahead of you. And I think if people took one thing from this stream, it's that, yeah, once you understand Kubernetes as an administrator or as a developer and user, that's step one. I mean, like, hey, can I use this thing? Is it useful? Fantastic. There's an S curve of learning where, once you get to knowing how to install it, how to use it a little bit, you probably flatten out your learning a little bit. It's like, okay, cool. I'm just in operations mode. Well, the second that you start to really delve into securing and hardening, there's a massive amount of things. It's a large learning curve. You now need to really dive into the control plane and start really tweaking stuff. And you're going to have to tweak all of your automation to conform to all of the things that this requires. This is way bigger than just tweaking some of these flags. These ones are actually the easy ones, I think. Some of these require a little more, hey, make sure you're encrypting the token that you're passing between your workers and your controllers. It's like, it's a little bit more than, well, set that to false, set that to true. There are a bunch of those low-hanging fruit things that you need to do, or you should do. But I say that just not to scare people away from it, but to trying to set people's expectations. It's incredibly useful. It's incredibly important. And don't be afraid. You can do it. And get ready, because there's a lot of things you got to learn. And if you want to learn how to, you need to develop the skill. I heard myself because you click a button.
I did not.
You need to develop a skill of feeling uncomfortable while you're learning. It's going to happen when you start to dive into this. You're going to feel really stupid. And
to add on to that too.
Yeah.
Sorry. To add on to that too is as you dig into it, your approach, the install is going to differ. So, if you're using just the binaries, that's the easiest way. I think that's kind of like the default way this has been written is, hey, pass in this flag, this -- flag. Those -- flags don't necessarily exist when you're doing a kubeadm. kubeadm has a kubeadm config, and some of these flags / config items are not available, actually. And not many. There's only 2 or 3 that are kind of missing. But that's something we struggled with a lot, and we had to make some concessions or do it different ways to get it to work. So keep that in mind depending on your install. Also, if you're using something like Rancher or OpenShift, there will be differences with those platforms as well when you're trying to implement these changes. But yeah, let's talk about the install. Let's talk about how do you run Kubebench?
Let's talk about it. I still haven't gotten the email, so thanks, Kubebench. On their GitHub. We'll go over the way that I installed it the other day because that's what we're going to talk about. Installed it on Ubuntu, and in their docs installation, you pull down the binary, and very interestingly, we run on Raspberry Pis because we are very advanced and we have big iron Raspberry Pis. We're very proud of them. Raspberry Pis run on ARM. For those not following all of our streams, ARM is coming up. They're almost first class. Things are being built for ARM all the time. Long story short, if you are using Raspberry Pis like we are, you would have to go and tweak this section and make sure that there is a release, which we're going to do, of the binary. So let's go to their GitHub really quick and just pop through this, because some people, I don't know I don't know all of our audience, but if people are looking for workflows about how do I navigate open source stuff, what's useful on GitHub, how are most GitHub repos set up? It took me a long time to learn that stuff. And anyway, you go to releases most of the time on most of these well-run organizations like Aqua Security, and you will see, okay, cool. The latest, which you hate to see it. Come on, they didn't update their docs. What's up with that? Anyway, 065. So I might choose 065. I did install 065, and if you check it out, These guys are big brain. And if you look at their GitHub, they added ARM builds like in 2020. So they were way ahead of the game. Kudos. Appreciate it a lot. I couldn't get the 062 to work on ARM. So that's half the reason why I'm showing you this, because I spent like 30 minutes trying to figure it out and had to do it this way. You problem solve. It's free. It's open source. So everybody can relax. ARM 64, 065. Pull that guy down. And then again, 065 ARM sudo apt install. And don't show that. Boom. Kubebench is installed on your controller, and it doesn't have access to the kube config. So you have to ask nicely. And then it runs the thing. Pretty easy. It's pretty nice. And one of the other things you can run is Kubebench master. And I need to look at the I'm no master of this tool, but running Kubebench with the master argument runs the one dot stuff. And pay no attention to our, well, this is what we're doing. This is our experimental Raspberry Pi awesome cluster. It has not gone through massive amounts of hardening because it's not necessary yet, but
experimental cluster. That's okay.
You like how I'm?
Oh, that's a
like
well. I mean, that is no. Actually, that is a really good point to bring up.
It is an experiment.
When you implement all of these security checks, it actually does limit the usability of the cluster. So, not everything. Yeah. So our Raspberry Pi cluster is a playground. We don't host really anything major there right now at all, actually. But it's our place to experiment. It's our place to try out different tools and learn them, because the industry is constantly changing. So if you implement this, this is really more advice for a production cluster. If you're going to be running real workloads with sensitive data that you're going to be, in an enterprise, 100% you want to implement this stuff. But for a private little Raspberry Pi cluster, definitely not.
Right. Or you do it if you're practicing, which is what, it's usually what we're using this stuff for. So
if you're facing the internet, you should probably do some of these things.
Pretty good idea. There's some terrible people on the internet.
But I think to Makita's point, like, some of these things can affect how your cluster, it will affect how your cluster works. So you might be doing stuff that you maybe shouldn't. So if you go turn off some flag, your stuff might just break.
Yep. So it's a really useful tool. And all you end up doing is just learning more about Kubernetes than you ever wanted to in some cases. So you can see, we have not. Oh, this is kind of interesting. So that's different than the silly screenshot that they had in their documentation. 111 is. Why is 111 different? API server pod spec file permissions such as 64. Well, I can't wait to get the PDF. Where's this? I haven't gotten it yet. Seriously. Is it in my spam? No. Doesn't matter. Let's keep her moving. So. Next question. We're running K3S. I was curious as to how this would work with K3S. If it's got automated checks, I guess it's all still there, right? K3S still runs pods for scheduler, runs etcd, it still runs all the things, I guess. So why wouldn't it? I haven't really thought that through so much.
It's the same code base. They just merged all of the binaries into a single binary and then kind of removed some of the bloat, basically.
Gotcha.
High level.
So, if we... Yeah. Let's see. What our control plane looks like. Yeah, so it's still got all these things. And by still has all these things, guess it is all running. I'm just impressed that it picked up a bunch of and maybe it's busted because it didn't. Like if they have automated check, and this isn't the content of the stream, but since we're just talking, how would it do an automated check against like the Kube API server if there's not a Kube API server pod and the binary isn't called Kube API server?
Good point.
I'm impressed. People have huge brains.
Well, the thing is that 0 checks pass and
Right.
so it probably can't find it is the answer for
Maybe.
K3S.
And I did a cursory look at this question. I'm not asking it completely blind. I did look at this, and nothing really jumped out at me in terms of like, oh, this is the obvious answer. K3S isn't really supported or whatever. Maybe it's, but nothing jumped out. So I have nothing to report. Open question. If anyone in the chat has huge brain, please let Sam know and he'll get back to me.
Regardless, this is just a demo for the stream, so.
Yep. And very simple to get started. And you should, basically. And you should. It's really, really useful.
Yeah, but then there is another option, right? Instead of using the binary option, there is a pod that you can deploy.
Yes. There's running inside a container, and running in a Kubernetes cluster.
With a job.yaml. You want to try that real quick?
Oh, God. I'm so nervous. Let's take a look. What do we got to do? Pull this guy down?
Yep, just pull down the job.yaml with curl and then just do a kubectl apply. You can do it right from the controller.
Excellent.
And while you're doing that,
job.yaml. Go ahead.
While you're doing that, like I said at the beginning, we do use this. We do use this in practice. What you're seeing right now is us just deploying it on our play cluster. It is ARM. It is running K3S, so we've never installed it here before, but we wanted to do a little talk about it. This does work. We do recommend adding it to your pipelines when you build your cluster. It's very helpful. But if this does not work right now, what he's about to do, that's just because it's a play cluster and we've never really done it on this one before. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, where's my job? You can run Kubench inside a pod. Blah, blah, blah. The supply job YAML can be applied. Okay, so I'm going too fast, and I'm missing the supply job YAML.
Let me look.
Well, where's the chat? The whole point of this live streaming is that the chat is like an extension of our consciousness. Seriously, it is. Come on, chat. Where am I finding? Why am I not finding the job.yaml when it literally says the supplied one?
Well, if you go to the repo, I already found it. So if you go to the repo, Kubench,
Perfect.
And you look at the files, there is a file called job.yaml.
Oh, you mean the file called job.yaml?
Yep, at the head of the directory.
Now I'm super tilted because I go to GitHub search. Okay, where's GitHub? Is it a YML?
Nope. It's YAML.
Okay, good. Where is it in the search?
You're searching in files.
I said search in this repository for job.yaml.
I don't know.
Find me code. Right.
Come on, GitHub. Watch our stream and fix it.
What the?
Knowing GitHub, it's something super fancy where you have to type like maybe a question mark file space.
I have to calculate the big O, complexity quotient of. I love you, GitHub, but oh my God, please. Oh, you mean
There it
this? Where's the raw?
Do it. Do it.
I'm doing it. Please. Please, sir.
Oh yeah, we'll see.
What?
We'll see if
What?
the container. We'll see if the image is a an ARM image or not.
We're going to find out real quick, aren't we?
Yeah.
Where'd it put it?
There it is. Kubench error.
Imagine your shock. Let's just do a little exploratory. Default is 4. No, 4. Look at all these bits. What's it doing? Creating a bunch of jobs.
Let's look at the logs. Boom. ARM error. But the thing is that they build ARM binaries. So my guess would be that either they're not building an ARM image, or we just have to define in that YAML that we want the ARM image.
Let's take a peek.
Depends on how they're building the image. You know, sometimes you can build, not sometimes, you can, if you're good, build an image that is what's the word I'm looking for?
This is your 6th
Architecture? A multi-architecture. Yeah. Sam knows what I'm talking about. He does it all the time. He's the multi-architecture genius. Thank you.
I'm
Slab.
gonna bump the version of this real quick to 6.5 instead of 6.3, and maybe there's.
What'd you do?
Made
Did
it
you
very
cat it,
angry.
or did you vim it?
No, they don't. What's the image name?
Hang on, just let me delete. I think it was telling me pods are immutable. Pods are immutable. You can't do that. And all I did was update the job spec, so I don't know why I was so pissed. But I'll just delete it and apply it.
Is the image AquaSec Kubench?
Yes.
They do not have an ARM image from the looks of it.
Okay. Well, demo failed.
Anyway.
It's okay.
Anyway, that's how it would work. Good? I think that's good.
I think that's good.
We have massive content today, so.
We do. Moving on from Kubench. If there's no questions in the chat, I guess we can wait here 1 second. Are there any questions in the chat regarding Kubench before we move on?
Hopefully this was a little, wet your whistle primer.
Yes.
Get you going.
I don't see any. If you guys have anything that comes up, though, we can revisit. All right. So moving on. What do you want to talk about? We have App Armor as an option, or we have built-in image scanning.
That's right. App Armor. App Armor's a thing. This, yeah.
Look at that. Look at that logo. It's got a shield and everything. That makes you feel super safe.
It's good. I don't have a lot to say about App Armor other than Linux kernel security module, and it's a thing. And I think it's a thing that will enforce, it will enforce policy that you give it to say whether or not a process is able to run on the kernel on your system at all. So it's kind of like security is like an onion. or whatever. I don't know. Security's like Shrek. And hey, now you're an all-star. Where, you can bake security into your CI/CD build process. What do they call it? Your bill of materials. You bake security into your auth. You bake it into your platform. There's the 4 C's of security that I learned about the other day again. 4 C's is cloud, container, and there's
Cluster
2 more.
and code.
Cluster and code. Thank you. And then there's like, but what if somebody gets onto your system and is able to execute a process? Well, you got this guy. You got AppArmor, and AppArmor's like, hey, get out of here, you joker! Quit trying to install viruses on my Kubernetes cluster or whatever. And it's literally configured to allow or disallow certain things. And big brain. I feel like it's a last resort type area, but again, it's a great place to protect. Like, hey, if you can know, hey, it doesn't matter. Let's say an attacker let's just say you didn't secure your Raspberry Pi cluster. Well, you got AppArmor. It's going to help you from something. That'll make sure that you don't have unprivileged or privileged things going on that you don't expect. So it's just another way to constrain what you expect to be happening on your production cluster, which again, not great if you're in an experimental, non-production or an experimental cluster where, you want people to be innovating. You don't want hackers to be innovating, but you kind of hose yourself. You need to give yourself playgrounds from time to time. So any other rambling that you want to hear? That's my biggest ramble about it.
Let's take a look at it real quick.
Oh, God.
Let's take a look. Quick introduction. Okay. Why don't we look at the main page?
Well, that was the main page.
Yeah, but we didn't scroll at all. I kind of want to see what the... scroll back up. I want to see the introduction. AppArmor is an effective and easy-to-use Linux application security system. AppArmor, whoa, nice, proactively protects the operating system and applications from external or internal, even zero-day attacks by enforcing good behavior and preventing both known and unknown application flaws from being exploited. Cool. It supplements the traditional, the DAC and the Mac. It's been included in mainline Linux kernel since 2.6.36. Cool. Let's scroll down to the installation real quick. Many Linux distributions ship with AppArmor.
Yeah.
And now, for those watching, we are Kubernetes practitioners, Kubernetes engineers, but we are Kubernetes engineers who started our careers on the app side of the spectrum. So we started as web service Java developers, and we grew into the Kubernetes space. So, we read, a lot of the streams that we do regarding things like Linux kernel, Linux admin type stuff, things that a lot of the Linux admins have been doing for years, we might not have heard of because that's not where we started our careers. So this AppArmor, I believe I've heard many Linux admin talk about it before, but it's definitely still new to me. So some background on me.
Look at this. I got to run this. I got to see what LBC was, putting on this situation. We got Java 8. What is this? I didn't do that. Redis. Come on. BusyBox. Get out of here. Look at all this stuff. It's awesome. And no complainers. That's also what we enjoy.
Zero processes are unconfined, but have a profile defined. 12 processes have profiles defined.
Graphics processor stuff in here. Is this graphics modules?
Okay, yeah, I have nothing else to say personally on my own knowledge. I just thought we could explore it a little bit.
Comes installed on Ubuntu. As the documentation was stating, many distributions ship with it. Makes sense, and it definitely does.
Scroll down a little bit. Since it's a kernel module, it's usually not something users install themselves. Want to manage application profiles by editing AppArmor.d.
Yep.
The list of currently defined profiles can easily be checked there. Checking AppArmor log messages. Each time AppArmor denies applications from doing potentially harmful operations, the event is logged and can be seen in your journal D, audit D, and your syslog. Cool.
That's cool. I'll stop ignoring those.
Cool. I bet you could set alerts too.
Yeah.
You know, if you're running a metric beat locally or something.
Or observe IQ.
Observe IQ. Shout out. All right, scroll down some more. What else we got? Ooh, okay. When debugging issues, the first step would always be to disable AppArmor.
I thought that was a no-no, because I always turn off my firewall if I can't play my games. It's the same idea, isn't it?
Very cool. Today I learned. TIL.
I will mention this page is the main documentation. I have looked through here a couple times.
Cool. Very cool. What time is it?
Questions in the chat. How many people
We
are
did
still
not
awake?
go super deep on AppArmor, but it's something to know. You know, this is literally just high level. Here's some security things that you should know about. Nothing in the chat. Okay. Our viewer count has fluctuated quite a bit, so we are now at 2 viewers, apparently. Moving on.
Hello.
How about we talk about... What are we talking about? Admission controllers? Or are we talking about...
The last thing we're going to talk about are Kubernetes admission controllers and one particular use case of an admission controller is to do container image scanning. I have no idea how that works, but high level, one layer of security that this enables is, okay, I'm in a Kubernetes cluster. I'm a developer. I'm trying to deploy an application, or I'm an administrator trying to deploy an application. You can set up your Kube API server to use admission controller, webhook type things, where Kubernetes events kind of enable this, I guess, as the low level piece. You would say, okay, I would like to enable an admission plugin, and the type is an image. I would like to enable an image policy webhook admission controller. And you kind of have to do if you're doing that, you know what you're doing. And you have to enable a bunch of things to allow your image scanner, which is a separate item outside of Kubernetes generally. You have to give it access and identity via kubeconfig in certificates, set up all that stuff. You kind of create one of these image policy files. There are a bunch of different ways to do this, so don't get too hung up with all this. You just need to do one of them. And the key thing to take away from when you set this up and when you configure it, you can say, well, what's your default? This kind of goes back to the Kubench thing that we talked about right at the beginning. It's like, well, do you have default allow everything? Because if you're hardening your cluster, you should basically turn that off if it's production. If it's innovation, if it's lower environments where you need people to explore because you want them to make your business money, or if you care about that, then you would allow people to install certain things. But in production, maybe you don't. You know what's going in there, so you would say default allow no, and only allow things that I configure elsewhere, things that are set up in my scanner. And so you set all this stuff up. And where is the place where you point to some endpoint? Basically, the other piece of this, you would enable this image policy webhook as an admission plugin, and you have to give it the endpoint, and it's a web server endpoint of where your scanner is running, and it's escaping me where you configure that at the moment. And I'm not going to sort through all this documentation. I was unable to find it right before we started here. But you would tell your admission controller plugin, oh yeah, it actually is probably, I think, I remember. Let's say you actually had a kubeconfig file. Actually, I remember where it is now. The kubeconfig for your image policy actually contains a server, which is your image scanner, instead of your Kubernetes cluster. I don't know how this works. Just going to give you some breadcrumbs on that. Hopefully that makes any bit of sense. Let me see if there's something in here. It is right here. Here's an example kubeconfig. You literally give your admission plugin something that looks like a kubeconfig, but it's really not. Kind of is, but it's really not. And it says, oh yeah, here's where my image scanner policy can be found. And normally this would be like normally, some cases this could be a local host image scanner running right in your control plane. It could be external to your cluster if you're running it somewhere else in your data center. And it would be set up with the proper security credential via certificates and stuff. And then like that admission plugin webhook, it says, oh, cool, you're trying to run BusyBox. Let me go check. Yeah, you're good. Go ahead and install. And it blocks, the scheduler would then say blocked if it's not allowed. And it's like, oh. There's a lot of ways to make sure only what you want running in your cluster is running in your cluster. And this is one of those other ways to explore as part of your security posture and profile.
I think that was a great demo. Excellent work.
I'm really glad you liked it. I'm stressed about it.
You're good. You're good. We do have a little bit of time left. I thought of one more topic we could talk about. Otherwise, we can just end the stream here. But the other topic is pod security policies. Is that something that you would like to talk about as a part of this?
That's a thing.
Or should we save that for next time?
Sam, what do you know about pod security policies?
That's a thing. No, I don't. I think we should prep a little bit.
Not a problem. I think that's a big enough topic that we could add it to the next stream.
It's a massive thing. But it's part of the RBAC. It's part of Kubernetes RBAC that helps you tune who has access to what.
Let's save it. Look at that. The app armor profile used by containers. All right, we'll save that for next time. So anybody in chat have any questions? Our chat is not very full right now, but that's okay. Before we sign off, any thoughts from you guys, actually, before we sign off? Sam, you did not get a lot of opportunities to chat this time. It was another Dan special. And I don't mean that as a McCracken special. I feel like the Dans just owned the mic a lot this time. I apologize.
That's fine. I do want to call out that we didn't do Captain again today. Captain Part 2. Still looking into that and learning more, but we'll do that at some point.
Can I still pronounce it as Captain? Because I'm going to have a real hard time
So, I mean, I think if you're going with that, like, really hard, I don't know, Russian or Slavic accent, it's Captain. I don't know. Like, in their documentation, one of the first things you read is Captain, pronounced captain.
Right?
Whatever.
That's okay. I like Captain. I thought it was clever. Now that it's just Captain, I'm kind of like, meh.
Yeah, but reading through their other documentation, it just makes more sense with their branding on what they call certain things. Like they have the Captain's Bridge. It's just a bunch of nautical stuff. You know? Yeah.
Going back to the interview screen. Okay. Yeah, I think this is good. This is just kind of one of probably many security-related streams. This is just our first one. And, you know, I think you guys will start seeing a theme with our content in that, you know, usually the first thing we do with that content is probably going to be more of a high-level overview, introduction. Yeah. Yep. So next time we'll probably do some deeper dives or maybe cover some other topics. There is a certification through the Cloud Native Computing Foundation called the CKS, the Certified Kubernetes Security Specialist, Security Specialist. They just dropped one of the S's. And yeah, so, you know, we don't have any necessarily direct content, but these are some of the topics that I think will be important as a part of that. So,
yeah,
I think
like
as
go over the curriculum at some point. Not right now. But.
I like that. Yeah, we should do that. We should do a couple streams. One for going over the CKA curriculum and the CKS curriculum. I think that'd be good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think we're going to sign off then.
All right.
Happy Wednesday.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for watching the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. If you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to subscribe and ring that bell for
Cloud Native
content.
Cloud Native Coffee Hour with Dan Makita, Dan McCracken, Sam Delamarter.
Did I just see an alert? Somebody followed us? No. It's just some other thing bouncing in the background.
Somebody left the chat. Somebody actually unsubscribed. That'd be really brutal. if we alerted on the unsubbed, I'd actually be flattered with those two. So
somebody did say that would be great. Yeah, we'll definitely give our thoughts and look at the different curriculums between the 3 exams and now the 4th exam once the KCNA goes public.
Yeah, I mean, we have taken those tests. We have taken the tests. We are slightly hesitant to give our actual experiences with those, just because, I mean, we're not supposed to talk about what's on the test. But I think we can do a stream about the curriculum and, you know, at least give our impressions of that and tell you what's important and what's not.
Right.
But we can't necessarily tell you what's on the test.
We can't tell you what questions are on the exam. I think outside of that, they are happy with us talking about, you know, how we approached it, what our experiences with it are. But
I mean, there's a public curriculum. You know, we can discuss all of those. They would encourage us to discuss that. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, we'll put that on the schedule. Maybe we'll do it sooner than later because I feel like that would be an easier stream to do than, you know, prepping all of the demo stuff. So doing streams takes a little bit of effort. Okay. Thank you for watching. We will see you guys next Wednesday, and we will get these streams pushed up to YouTube shortly. Have a wonderful Wednesday. We are out.